A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. Joining me in segment number 2, we're going to have Ryan McIntyre aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and we're going to be chatting with him about everything that we saw on this college basketball Saturday, some of his takeaways from championship week, some of the teams that he's starting to feel bullish/bearish on. We're going to be taking a look at the games for Sunday and so much more. So, great chat coming up with Ryan in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this college basketball Sunday as we hit some bank shots. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at Jane_D1. Keep in mind, letters M, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way, that is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. They get in a few questions with regards to how things are going to be operating for Selection Sunday and things like that with the spreadsheet, and with regards to the timing on being able to set my handicaps, literally as the selection show is going on and as we are getting these matchups, I am handicapping these lines, trying to get them up as quickly as humanly possible. I think last year I had all the handicaps done about 45 minutes after the selection show had concluded. Hopefully I can get these up as quickly as humanly possible. Hope to do even better than that, but as the selection show is going on, I am handicapping. And then just with regards to the podcast tomorrow, I'm going to be going through all the first round games, giving a little bit with regards to a betting perspective, but tomorrow's podcast is essentially going to be the Big Giant Bracket podcast. I'm going to give you guys everything that I am going to be having on my bracket, everything from the first 4 all the way through my national title. I do not post up the paper bracket on Twitter/X because I don't want a whole bunch of people to seal it. So if you listen to the podcast, you get it. If you don't, well, yeah, I will point you in the direction of the podcast to be able to get it. So I do think that we are going to have a good time there, and it serves all parties because I'm going to look at those first round games a little bit with regards to the betting perspective, give the straight up look as well, and then later on during the week, like for the Thursday morning podcast, we're going to be looking at those Thursday games, the Tuesday first 4 games, we'll be diving in on those picks and analysis on everything like normal, but tomorrow's podcast, doing a little bit more straight up, still giving you guys my initial leans with regards to the against the spread outlook of those first 4 and those first round games. So we've got you guys all covered on pretty much every single front of college basketball, so we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow, but we also had a lot of fun in college basketball on Saturday, a championship Saturday, so let's take a look back at it. Tried to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Illinois Fighting Illini just continue to play overs, and they continue to get the job done in the Big Ten tournament. 98-87, they were able to take down Nebraska as this game was getting away from them in the first half. They were down 11 points at the half, but they're able to rally late, and as a matter of fact, for Illinois, I think that they got down as many as 15 points in this one, but the way that they were able to pull it out and they were able to get the job done, Terrence Shannon, 40 big points in this one. He's able to go 5 of 9 from 3-point range. Marcus Stomask chips in there 16. Illinois able to win that rebound battle by a count of 42-36. And for Illinois, they do commit one more turnover than Nebraska. And Casey Shomanaga, relatively good display from him as well. He has 18 points, so he only goes 2 of 7 from 3-point range. But Illinois now 23 overs to just 10 unders thus far this season. And really since the turn of the calendar, this team has been a machine to the over. And they were able to cash another one on Saturday. What has been also a very good team to the overall season long, that would be the Purdue Boilermakers, and they fall to Wisconsin. This by a count of 76-75. Purdue now 22 overs to 11 unders this far this season, and well, this one went over the total because when you add overtime, and they don't call it undertime for a reason, Giant of the Year Zach Edey, I know that there was some controversy in terms of calls that he got here in the Big Ten tournament, but 28 points, 11 boards out of him. Braden Smith dealing with injury. Did a good job of facilitating, really wasn't able to put the ball in the basket though. He's able to give out 10 assists before he fouls out, but only 7 points, and Wisconsin gets decimated on the glass, 46-32, but Wisconsin kept it clean. 5 turnovers for them, 16 turnovers for Purdue. That turned out to be the big difference in this one. We've got Vermont dancing in the NCAA tournament. They have been one of your best under teams in all of college basketball this year. 23 unders to 9 overs. They take down UMass Lowell, was able to get the cover in their own right. 66-61 the final, and I hope we do see this UMass Lowell team in some sort of tournament. They've had a nice season, and for Vermont, way that they get the job done, each of their starters were able to give you at least 9 points in this one. Good overall balanced scoring, and for UMass Lowell, they go just 3 of 10 from 3-point range, and they lose that turnover battle by a count of 14-6. So Vermont gets into the NCAA tournament. Princeton is going to be left out, unfortunately, despite the fact that they're 24-4 straight up. Very unfortunate for them. They just ran into a bulldozer of a Brown Bears team. 90-81 the final, as Brown had to go on a 5-game win streak just to be able to make the Ivy League tournament. For Princeton, they go 9 of 35 from 3-point range. Picked a very bad day to go cold, as Mataloco, he went 5 of 9 from 3-point range. That means that the rest of the team, they were just 4 of 26 from distance. You had Caden Pierce be able to supply the team with 19 points, 12 rebounds, but had 7 of the team's 11 turnovers. For Brown, they do lose that turnover battle by a count of 18-11, but for Princeton, they do find a way to persevere. They get the job done. Also being able to get the job done straight up, not so much against the spread, that'd be Auburn. They're able to get the job done straight up, but not so much against the spread. 73-66 the final, as for Auburn, they lose the turnover battle 15-14. They lose the rebound battle 37-29, but for Mississippi State, they go just 3 of 15 from 3-point range. Auburn had on their side Chad Baker-Mazara as well. He was able to supply the team with 14 points. He was able to do a solid job of also giving the team a quartet of rebounds as well. So Auburn, they are going to the SEC final, and they're going to be meeting up with Florida, who's been really playing a bunch of overs in their own right. 95-90 the final. So for Florida, this was also a win and a cover for them, as they go 14 of 26 from 3-point range. And for Texas A&M, who's been really rough from 3-point range all season long, they were able to go 8 of 21 from 3 themselves. Florida has also been doing a really nice job of getting to the free throw line. This game, they go 27 of 35 at the free throw line. Texas A&M 26 of 32 at the free throw line, and that's something to be mindful of as well. I've been noticing in these SEC games just 100 million billion fouls being called, so certainly something I'm watching out for with these SEC teams moving forward, if they're going to be getting those calls or not in the NCAA tournament. This call was not a good one for myself. My DK Network Reddit pick was on St. Bonaventure, and the Bonnie's defense was fine. The offense, not so much. For Duquesne, they get the win by a count of 70-60, and Duquesne has been a really good under team for you recently as well, but for St. Bonaventure, they go just 6 of 24 from 3-point range. Did a relatively solid job of being able to win the battle on the glass by a count of 30-29. Both teams had 11 turnovers apiece, but Jimmy Clark, Day Grant, they completely took over this game. A combined 45 out of the team's 70 points for them, and for the Duquesne unit, 23 unders, 9 overs, and just 1 push. So they have been very much underwhelming with regards to the totals department, but they do find a way to be able to get it done. New Mexico, they will not be sweating on Selection Sunday. They get a 68-61 win over San Diego State, and this New Mexico team has been one of your best against the spread teams in all of college basketball. 23-11 against the spread. They go just 6 of 20 from 3-point range, but San Diego State, they go just 4 of 20 from 3-point range. And for New Mexico, how about the way that they kept it clean? They win the turnover battle 10-4, and additionally, they were able to win the rebound battle by a count of 42-38. Jaden Ledee had 25 points, but nobody else for San Diego State, north of 8 points. So New Mexico, they're going to be heading to the NCAA tournament, and perhaps the most dominant display of the day was by Iowa State. 69-41. They completely house a Houston team that has been one of the best in all of college basketball. And Houston just flat out got run out of the building from their own game. For Iowa State, they go 9 of 22 from 3. They shoot 50% from the floor. Houston, just 15 out of 56 from the field. They lose the turnover battle 12-9. They lose the rebound battle 35-34. Absolute butt kicking by Iowa State. Very impressed by what I saw out of them. Not so impressed by this team. Florida Atlantic, I think that there's a reasonable debate as to whether or not they should be in the NCAA tournament field. They lose to Temple 74-73, and Temple has went from allegations of point shaving / just in general, shall we say, shadiness, who now going into the American Conference Final, where they're going to be meeting up the team that they played against that sprung it all, that UAB game a few weeks ago, as Temple goes 12 of 24 from three-point range. Heisier Miller was able to supply the team with 21 points. You were able to have a nice double-double, 16 points, 10 rebounds out of Jordan Riley, as Temple does lose the battle on the glass, 36-26, but Florida Atlantic goes cold from three-point range, 3 of 17 from 3, though Vladislav Golden, he does go 10 of 12 from the floor. He was able to supply the team with 23 points, but yeah, Temple versus UAB in the American Final, so that's of intrigue, and that's wild and crazy. UAB, by the way, now 19-12-2 against the spread for them, and this UConn team, they are currently looking like an absolute bulldozer against the spread thus far this season. They've went 22-12 against the spread, and Marquette, the team that they just knocked off, won and covered against, they're 20-13-1 against the spread. UConn 73-57 winners. Wasn't the same offensive expose that we saw against St. John's, but they won the rebound battle by a count of 37-32, and Donovan Klingen's one of his best games ever. 22 points, 16 rebounds. UConn commits fewer turnovers than Marquette. Marquette, obviously, without Tyler Kolek, they were relying upon Cam Jones for quite a bit of production. 13 points, 8 boards, but for Marquette, just 6 of 18 from three-point range. So it is UConn who's able to get the job done. They get the auto bid to the NCAA tournament. So does a team with a departing coach. Long Beach State decided to part ways with Dan Monson at the beginning of the week, and at the end of the week, they're in the NCAA tournament. They knock off UC Davis 74-70, the final for Long Beach State. They shoot just 38.5% from the floor, but they dominate on the glass, winning that battle 42-40, and they won the turnover battle 9-5, as you had Traore squared and Lucina Traore and Abakar Traore had big games. For Abakar, only 7 points, but 13 boards, 6 assists, and Lucina, 25 points, 9 rebounds. So Long Beach State finds a way to be able to get into the NCAA tournament. So does Grambling. They take down Texas Southern 75-66 the final. It's been a while for Grambling since they've been in the NCAA tournament, but just thorough domination throughout. And if you do get Texas Southern in some sort of a ancillary tournament, this has been a team that has been playing a lot of overs last month or so. As for Grambling, they go 8 of 19 from three-point range in this one. They play even up on the glass. You're able to have 20 big points out of Jordan Smith. That was able to allow Grambling to be able to get that auto bid to the NCAA tournament. Oregon, they make as bid thieves as well. 75-68, they take down Colorado. They're heading to the NCAA tournament. For Oregon, they go just 2 of 17 from three-point range, but they went 17 of 24 at the free throw line. Colorado did their part if you had this total over. 21 of 23 at the charity stripe, but here's how Oregon truly won the game. They won the turnover battle 13-3. So we are going to be seeing Oregon in the NCAA tournament. We're also going to be seeing Western Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. 78-71, they're able to take down UTEP. For UTEP, they go 9 of 24 from 3, and Western Kentucky goes just 3 of 16 from distance, but where Western Kentucky won this game was on the glass. They win the rebound battle 40-36, and they also win the turnover battle 19-16, as for UTEP, they're good at being able to generate turnovers, but that also causes them to get a little bit loose with the ball. And for UTEP, even though they went 9 of 24 from three-point range, they went on their twos just 14 out of 36. So Western Kentucky did a nice job of being able to win from within on this one. And for NC State, they win 5 games in 5 days to be able to clinch their bid to the NCAA tournament. 84-76, they take down North Carolina, and it's a North Carolina team that has been pretty rock solid against the spread all season long. They're 19-15 against the spread, but I mean, how about this run from NC State? DJ Turn It Up Horn was able to give you 29 points. DJ Burns has been getting a lot of social media love. He was able to supply the team with 20 for North Carolina. They win the rebound battle by kind of 38-33, and they win the turnover battle 10-8, but they go just 8 of 30 from three-point range. NC State, they go 6 of 14 from distance. NC State getting out at the right time. They're able to pull it out. You saw Kent State give a intentional foul with literally seconds remaining against Akron to send them to the NCAA tournament. Kent State was up 61-60. You had an intentional foul give. Akron, they make both free throws. They win 62-61. Got a feel for the guy, and I also have to wonder how guys, because we see it every single year, we see like 1 or 2 of these cases where a team is up by like 1 or 2 points and their guy thinks that they're down by a point. Like, I have no idea how that happens, but for Akron, you had Ali do a solid job of bailing the team out. 18 points, 5 assists for Kent State. You had 21 big points out of Cameron Davis in this one, but man, oh man, that costly foul, that was massive for Kent State, just like this is massive for St. Peter's. The Peacocks are making the NCAA Tournament for the second time in 3 years, 68-63 the final. Last time they were there, they were able to make the Elite Eight. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a similar result. And by the way, going back to that last game between Akron versus Kent State, Akron now 20 unders and 12 overs on the season going into the NCAA tournament. And St. Peter's, as we know, they're a low-scoring slog of a team, but they were able to do a nice job being able to shoot 52% from the floor in this one, 6 of 13 from 3, and for Fairfield, they go just 5 of 25 from distance. Caleb Fields supplied the team with 17 points, and Alexis Yetna, who missed much of the season, 12 points, 10 rebounds, but Fairfield, they find a way to persevere. They get the job done. They are going to the NCAA tournament, and really lone game that is hanging in the balance as I record this is Grand Canyon versus UT Arlington. Currently, Grand Canyon is up 63-54, looking pretty good there. You'll know when this podcast is uploaded whether or not they pull it out or not, but Grand Canyon, with 7:45 remaining in the second half, my goodness, they are 21 of 32 at the free throw line. This UT Arlington team has been called for 24 fouls in the first 31.5 minutes. So this has very much been a foul fest out there, and this game was a little bit of foul fest late for you to be able to get the over, as you were able to have Delaware State be able to give good chase to Howard. They were able to get the cover, but Howard, they get the job done. 70-67 the final. Seth Downs in his 57th year of college basketball is dancing once again. He was able to give this Howard team 16 points, and for Howard, they go 26 of 31 at the free throw line. They overcome going just 18 of 47 from the floor as a result, and should be interesting to see if this team is able to overcome Selection Sunday. South Florida against UAB. They did have a loss in that game, 93-83, and this South Florida team has been one of your best against the spread record teams in all of college basketball at 28-3 against the spread, and for UT Arlington entering into the night as well, 23-8 against the spread, so they were able to do a rock solid job there as well. But this UAB team, they were just able to really crank up the temperature. For South Florida, they go 15 of 38 from three-point range, but they lose the battle on the glass by a count of 40-33. And if you're looking at what we're getting trend-wise in college basketball right now, overall for the season, overs continued at a 50.9% clip, 2,818 overs, 2,715 unders, with the favorites overall hitting at 50.6% for the campaign. Meanwhile, if you're looking at what we've got in the last 7 days in college basketball, it has been quite a few unders, 112 unders to 104 overs. Meanwhile, favorites, they're hitting at just 48.5%. Underdogs, 110, 104, and 4 against the spread with that Grand Canyon result pending. So that's what we're seeing in college basketball right now, and that's what we all got on Saturday. Let's turn it forward to Sunday. Let's get some championship week reaction and so much more with Ryan McIntyre. He does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and he joins me next on Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Decent Family Podcast. And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man, as Ryan McIntyre. He does such good work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. So we're taking a look at this great game of college basketball that we all know and love. And with Ryan, he's got so much experience when it comes to this great game of college basketball. He was on the coaching staff of South Carolina when they made their run to the Final Four. I know that he has spent some time with West Virginia as well, and for those that do like West Virginia sports, he does the Ryan and Rush show. You're able to catch that wherever you get your podcast / over on youtube.com/Ryan and Rush all together. And to be able to follow Ryan McIntyre on Twitter, that's at Moneyline_Mac, spelled M-A-C, all together. And Ryan, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me, and happy Championship Saturday. We'll have a bracket here in 24 hours.
Yes, we certainly will. We've got just 5 games left for Sunday, and as we're doing this, the only thing that's hanging in the balance is whether or not we're going to get Florida Atlantic in that American final, and I'd be very surprised if we don't. But first things first, before we take a look at those Sunday games, who are a few teams from Championship Week that either impressed you or are teams that you're a little bit more bearish on with what we've seen? Because I do think that recent form is very big when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and certainly there are some teams that are rounding into form and others that are, well, not so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to look at the teams that had success in the non-conference that maybe they just hit a little bit of a wall in league play. And two teams in the Mountain West that impressed me this week were New Mexico, who's playing right now against San Diego State, and Colorado State. They both have really good guards. They're older. I thought they just got worn down by a really good Mountain West league. Another team that has impressed me the last couple of days, and I know it's close to your heart, is the Wisconsin Badgers. They definitely hit that lull in February where it felt like they couldn't win a game, but it feels like they've righted the ship here. Greg Gard's got them playing their best basketball headed into the dance, and I think Sparty as well. I thought, although they lost to Purdue, I saw some things from those good guards that had success last year in March as we get to bracket here soon.
Yeah, but I know that there were some people speculating as to whether or not Michigan State would be left out of the NCAA tournament or not. I'd be very, very, very surprised if that would be the case. And heck, if you get them in the NIT, I would like them in the NIT as well. But that said, you did mention Wisconsin. They are going to be taking on Illinois in the Big Ten final. And it's been an Illinois team that's been pretty harebrained here in the last few weeks. And right now we're finding Wisconsin as a little bit of an underdog as we're starting to get these opening numbers. And just what do you make out of this game that we are going to be seeing for Sunday? Because you've got a Wisconsin team that certainly has had their warts on defense, but offensively, they've been able to do a very solid job. And you want to speak of a team that defensively has not really been able to get the job done. It is Illinois, but that offense has been really clicking since the turn of the calendar.
It really has, and you talk about it. Style makes fights with these two teams. Illinois wants to play really fast, get up and down. Terrence Shannon is one of the more electric players in college basketball. They just played a couple weeks ago in Madison, and Illinois was able to go in there and get the win 91-83 outright. I lean probably to Illinois here with the short turnaround. I think Illinois is a hard team to prepare for on short prep just because their unique style, what they spread you out, five guys can make shots, and also I think that from a Wisconsin standpoint, took a lot out of them having to play the extra 5 minutes to be able to knock off the number one seeded Purdue Boilermakers.
And right now at DraftKings, we're seeing an opener of Illinois being a 3-point favorite and a total of about 150.5. And I do think that it is going to be so interesting to look at these Wisconsin totals because you know this as well as anyone. When it comes to March, these games do slow down a little bit. You do notice that teams in general become a little bit more methodical. They're going to be not looking to push it up and down. How do you take a look at a total like this with two teams that, let's call it what it is, defense has been relatively rough, but both teams have clicked on offense. But at the same time, you've got a Wisconsin team that, despite their offense being so good, they're just so dang slow.
They are. And another thing, too, I think when teams are playing their third game in as many days, from a Wisconsin standpoint, it's going to be their fourth game in 4 days. I think it takes a little bit of feeling out. Just watching UConn and Marquette and Houston and Iowa State, I felt like those games got off to slow starts because guys are a little more sore. It kind of brings you back to your AAU days where you're playing 3 straight days and what we do in November with all these preseason tournaments. It's a little bit of feeling out, and I think that's why so many first-half unders hit, or just unders in general in postseason, especially on the third game in 3 days or fourth game in 4 days.
Absolutely. It's Ryan McIntyre. He does such good work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Is joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops, and we do have a lot of intrigue when it comes to what we're going to be getting on this college basketball Sunday, and I do think that this one is of such intrigue. And by the way, it's a crying shame that we're most likely not going to be seeing Princeton in the NCAA tournament after they had such a good regular season, but the team that knocked them off, Brown, they're going to be taking on Yale out there in the great state of New York. And this is a number that is moving as we're doing this. Opener was 6.5. Now we're finding Yale is between a 7.5 to an 8-point favorite. Totals between 133.5 and 134. And I do want to get your thoughts on this just because it is a Brown bunch that, I mean, if you took a look at them at the beginning part of the season, you were thinking one of the most disappointing teams in mid-major college basketball. Like, I had expected so much more out of them, but now they're really finding their stride against a Yale team that they really have been rock solid all season long out there in the Ivy League. They don't turn the ball over. They play relatively solid defense. What do you make out of a matchup like this with the Brown team that I feel like they just had a lot of untapped potential towards the beginning part of the season, and now they're tapping into it, but running into a buzzsaw of a team in Yale?
They really are. I felt like Yale was the best team. I know they didn't win the regular season, in due part because Brown just beat them outright last week at Yale. So this is a rematch from last Saturday. I think I'm going to lean to probably the favorite here with Yale. The Brown story has been great. The advanced metrics loved them all year. And you started to wonder, are they ever going to live up to these advanced metrics of the luck category that the different metrics break down very well? So I like Yale here. I think they're the more experienced team. I think that they're going to be able to pull away and put some distance between them and Brown coming off the big upset win against Princeton.
Yep, I do think so as well. I did set a rather hefty line on this one myself, and I did think that the opener of 6.5 was just a little bit too low. And for Brown, they're able to do a nice job on the glass. If they could just find a guard outside of Keno Lilly Jr. to be able to help out, I think that would be so big for them. And Yale's one of those teams I look at as a mid-major that I'm very bullish on if they can make it to the NCAA tournament. And a team that I've been feeling quite bullish on is the Florida Gators. Defense is a little bit suspect with this team, but they do an absolutely excellent job of being able to hit the glass. Now they're going to be taking on Auburn in the SEC title game, with this line being Auburn about a 5.5 to a 6-point favorite. So it's between 155 and 156. And do want to get your thoughts here, because while this Auburn team has been so well-rounded, this is a bunch I think is going to be one of the more undervalued teams, in my opinion, perhaps in the NCAA tournament. They always have played a little bit different on the road rather than at home. I just feel like 5.5 to 6, a little bit too many in this sort of a spot.
You mentioned it with Auburn. They have been a little bit up and down. They seem to be playing their best right now. What they did to South Carolina once again was very impressive on Thursday, and then followed up with a big win over Mississippi State, who was playing well. I leaned to laying it with Auburn. I just think that their style of play, their ability to get up and down and play at a chaotic pace, I like Auburn here to get it done and lay the number at the SEC title game. It'll be Florida's fourth game in 4 days. A lot of emotional games, being able to beat Alabama the way they did, beat A&M in comeback fashion the way that they did. I'm going to lay it with Auburn.
With Auburn, it is a bunch that really has done a nice job with their guard play as well. Last year, their biggest kryptonite was not being able to pop threes. This year, they've been able to do a much better job of being able to do so. So a lot of credit there. And then we've got VCU versus Duquesne, which this is not necessarily what the A-10 was hoping for with their championship game. VCU has been rock solid. Duquesne, they really had a rough start to the season, but they've come on very strong recently. This is a line of 2 with a total of 127.5. And when I take a look at this spot, I faded Duquesne yesterday to no success. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do it again, though, just because I look at Duquesne with having Jimmy Clark, Dede Grant. They're 2 really good scorers, but outside those 2 guys, I just don't know where the rest of the offense is going to come from.
This is going to be a fascinating game. Dan Broad's been able to get this team in a position to be able to be a bid stealer here, because this is going to be a 2-bid league. So the winner of this will go to dance with Dayton, the Dayton Flyers. I like the way VCU has really rounded form in year number 1 under Ryan Odom, and he's proven to be a really good tournament coach, whether it was at UMBC or Utah State last year. I like the Rams to put the finishing touches on another A-10 title, which would be their 5th coach that's been able to do that and get this program to the dance over the last 20 years.
Yep, absolutely, and it's been so much fun to be able to take a look at both of these teams, and the A-10 in general, just providing a whole bunch of intrigue with all the upsets that we have been seeing, and have to figure that we're going to be getting UAB in that American final, with this being a game that as of right now we don't have any numbers up on it, but assuming that we do get Florida Atlantic versus UAB, how would you be taking a look at that sort of a spot, considering the fact that UAB, they absolutely have to win this game to be able to get into the NCAA tournament?
I think I lean to UAB. I've loved what I've seen from UAB. Andy Kennedy, another really good tournament coach. Love their guard play, led by Gaines and company. They got size, they got athleticism, and they're playing free. I look for UAB to be the one on the right side and be a bid stealer here on Sunday.
That would be a lot of fun, and this UAB team is so well coached. Andy Kennedy, he's just absolutely amazing in the way that he goes about just being able to do it a little bit differently in general every single year. Like last year with Jelly Walker in the fold, it was a bunch I was really able to pop it from 3-point range. They had Trey Jemison and company. This year it's been a little bit of a different tenor, but they hit the glass ball with the Axel Lenborg and company, and it's been a little bit more holes greater than the sum of its parts than it was a season ago. It's Ryan McIntyre. He does amazing work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and I know that there's a few other things to be able to take a look at. Certainly, we're going to be having a lot of intrigue with regards to this week in terms of the NIT games, the NCAA tournament games getting going, and I do want to get your thoughts here, because you do such a good job along Kobe Dan of looking at all these college basketball teams, whether it be the power conference teams or if it be the mid-majors, and I do want to focus there. Is there a team or two that's outside the Power Six that perhaps won their conference tournament, just got a bid within the next few days, that you do have a little bit of a star around? Obviously, you don't need to commit to be like, oh, if this team is a 13, 14 seed, I'm going to take them outright, because we just mentioned it, matchups make fights and everything like that. But is there one or two that you do take a look at and you think, man, this is a bunch that is playing some good basketball, and if they get the right matchup, it could be intriguing?
The one I got circled, and I had them circled last year, and I felt like they should have won, was Drake. They led Miami by 8 points with 4 minutes. They have a majority of the same group back. They got a superstar, the coach's son, and Tucker DeVries, Darnell Brody down low. They got good guards. They're well coached. They're battle tested. They beat Indiana State, which was the darling for everybody this year. They beat them 2 out of 3, and they beat them at Arch Madness to get in there. So they're definitely going to be one I circle. I know Vermont and Colgate are always trendy, but it seems like the athleticism of the high majors do always bother them. Pat Kelsey's group also almost beat San Diego State last year. I like this Charleston group. They don't have as many stars. They're more of a get things done by committee, but they make shots at a high clip. If they get a team that struggles guard the 3 ball, I like Pat Kelsey and his group to potentially pull an upset. So Charleston and Drake are 2 that I got circled when the bracket comes out.
And what sort of teams do you really try to dive in on and take a look at when it comes to just the NCAA tournament and being able to make a run? Because I know that you were on that South Carolina coaching staff, and as we all know, Sindarius Thornwell, that guy was just an absolute monster in the NCAA tournament. But you mentioned a team like Charleston that I really like. They're much more of a whole is greater than some of its parts approach sort of team. They're not a bunch that's going to be completely dominant on that front of just having that one guy take over, but they've got so many different guys. What are some of the characteristics that you're going to be looking at with this year's NCAA tournament in terms of a team that you're looking to back or a team that you're maybe looking to stay away from?
One of the main things I love is experience. I love the teams that got fifth-year guys, grown men that are 22, 23, heck, even 24 years old at the COVID exception years. So experience, I do like the KenPom metrics that everybody talks about, being balanced on offense and defense. I know the stat where a team hasn't won the national championship unless they've been in the top 25 of both offense and defense adjusted metrics. So that as well. And I'd like to also look at what you did in the non-con, because like UConn, for example, last year, they were way undervalued coming in because they just got beat up and worn down in the Big East play and had some injuries. But if you looked back, they just ran through the non-conference. And once they got out of league play, it felt like it was a breath of fresh air. So looking just experience, balance, and obviously the coaching as well. I like back at coaches that have been there, done that, and just have a winning pedigree in March.
And then I do want to bring this up as well, because there are certain things that I'm looking to back and fade. And when it comes to right now, the 2 teams that just really come to mind for me that I want no part of, that would be Alabama and Kentucky, just because they play absolutely no defense whatsoever. We saw that in the SEC tournament. What are your thoughts on those 2 teams going into the NCAA tournament? Just because I feel like you can win with a lot of offense and not a ton of defense, but I feel like they're not even giving you a morsel of defense at this point, and that's very concerning to me.
Yeah, I want no part of Alabama. In my opinion, you can't win 6 games and keep advancing with that style of basketball. Just such high variance. Alabama's a team definitely I'll be looking to fade. Another team that I'm going to look to fade, and they really overachieved and they did a great job, Lamont Paris in South Carolina. I like to fade the teams that are going to be in that 4-5 range that have really overachieved and maximized what they've gotten, because when they get on a neutral floor, it feels like the luck and just some of the close games that they've won over the years kind of evens out, and they get in a tight game and the crowd turns against them. We see how everybody always falls in love with the Cinderella. So South Carolina and Alabama would definitely be top 2 teams I would be looking to fade. And I do agree with you with Kentucky. They are so entertaining. They're fun to watch, but I just can't trust them on a night-to-night basis with that defense.
Yeah, I can't either. But one man that I can trust to always deliver the goods, that'd be you, Ryan. You do such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of college basketball. You've been in it as a coach. Now you do a great job breaking it down, making us some money. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. We're daily, every single night on the college basketball experience. And like I said, I'll be out in Vegas this week doing shows, so hope to bump into Hoops Peterson over at Circus Sports with the VEASAN crew. They do a great job. You can find me at Moneyline_Mac and go check out the Ryan and Rush Show for West Virginia news.
And Ryan does such a great job taking a look at this great game of college basketball. As he mentioned, he's a man that does a tremendous job with West Virginia as well. I'm sure that there's going to be quite a bit of intrigue this offseason as well with everything that they're going to be doing as well. And trust me, with the NIL that West Virginia has, they are going to be back sooner rather than later. And Ryan, he's going to be breaking it all down. And Ryan does such a great job when it comes to being able to decipher this great game. So big thanks to him for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VEASAN family podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this college basketball Sunday as we hit some big shots. lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the VSiP Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Ryan McIntyre, who does such good work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment, taking a look at this tremendous game of college basketball. My goodness, it has been a wild last few days. Ryan, somehow, someway, he's able to decipher it all. He's done great work as a coach in this game over at West Virginia and South Carolina. Now he makes us some money by being able to evaluate it for us all. So big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this college basketball Sunday as we hit some bank shots.
Most financial establishments close at a certain time, but not here. It is time for a side and total on every game on today's betting board bank shots.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at unit_D1, and we're going to be going in the rotation order, and that's time order today. So that's very nice, clean, and easy. We do not need to have any sort of convoluted explanation with that. So how about if we get things started with 641, 642 on the betting board. This is the Ivy League title game out there in New York. Yale and Brown do battle. Brown opens up a 6.5-point underdog. Now they're between a 7.5 to an 8-point underdog. Totals between 133.5 and 134. Fully agree with this line movement. I am willing to lay it with Yale. I did set them as an 8-point favorite, so this is a spot where at 7.5, it's pretty much a max I'm willing to go, but I grabbed this a little bit earlier myself. You've got a Brown team that is on a really nice run, and if you take a look at what they've been able to do, it's just absolutely remarkable how they've gotten to this point. It's really been via rebounding. You've got a pair of guys in Nana Owusu Anane along with Kalu Enya who have been able to combine for about 16 rebounds per game, but now they run into a better rebounding team in Yale, who's got by far the best player out there on the floor, in my opinion, Danny Wolf. So versatile, 14.5 points, 9.5 boards, shoots 35.5% from three-point range while standing right around about 6'10", 6'11", and then you're able to throw in there John Boladikas. He has been a very good knockdown shooter for the team, shooting 40% from three, 13 points per contest. Baz Embiid does a nice job of being able to dole it out as well for a Yale team that is in the top 75 nationally with regards to rebound rate. Brown really doesn't compare, and this is a Brown team that entered into yesterday 201st in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. Now, they're only giving up about 2.1 points more per 100 possessions when they're away from home rather than when they are at home, but still quite a bit of a concern. This Yale team, they've also been only giving up about 2 to 3 points more per 100 possessions away from home rather than at home. So both of these teams travel relatively well, but this Yale team, on top of being able to rebound really well, they do a nice job just in terms of being able to take care of the ball themselves. Only about 9.5 turnovers a game, going up against a Brown team that they really don't force the issue too much. And then for Brown, while Keno Lilly is a very good guard for the team, he's able to supply with 18.5 points, 3.5 assists per contest. It's a case where he does get a little bit loose with it, nearly 3 turnovers per contest. Brown is outside the top 225 in terms of ball control with their 12.3 turnovers per contest. And really outside of Keno Lilly, you don't have anyone else in the backcourt. That gives you an earth of 7.5 points per contest. As Aaron Cooley has been able to give you about 7 points per game, but I do think that Yale is going to be able to outclass this Brown team. It's been a Yale bunch that has been able to play some very good defense all season long. Sans a overtime game or two. As a matter of fact, last time these two teams played, this game did go to overtime. That was 73-73 at the end of regulation, but really past that, it's a Yale bunch that has given up 73 points or fewer in all but 3 out of their last 15 games have ended in regulation. And in that game that we saw the first time around, both teams went 10 of 25 from 3. I think they're both going to be a little bit cooler in this spot. I did set my total at a 134. If we get down to a 133.5 like I'm seeing, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over. Brown has been playing outside the top 225 in terms of total possessions per game, but do like the way that this Yale team has been able to roll on offense as well. As a matter of fact, for Yale, this team has been able to get past the 69-point plateau, and now each of their last 5 games. And for Brown, they have been able to find a little bit of something down low. This bunch has now been able to stack together at least 70 points in each of their last 5 games as well. So at a 133.5, looking at the over, and I'm going to be willing to lay up to 7.5 with Yale. 643, 644 on the betting board. Duquesne and VCU do battle from Barclays Center for the A10 title, and VCU is a 2-point favorite. Total on this game, it is 126 to 126F. I made VCU the 4-point favorite. I'm going to be willing to lay this number with VCU. I love the way that they guard the three-pointer. Top 45 team in all of college basketball with that respect. And for Duquesne, this team has really been able to emerge with their defense. They're a top 55 team in all of college basketball in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, but just the imbalance in scoring does have me off of them. You've got Data Grant and Jimmy Clark. These two guys have been incredible, averaging about 32 points per contest between the two of them, a little bit north of 6 assists. They both shoot about 32 to 34% from three-point range, but who are you going to be able to have outside that really give you production? Fusani Drame has been relatively solid down low. No points in the game yesterday, but was able to give you 8 rebounds per game. This is a Duquesne team that they do a nice job with that holes greater than the sum of its parts approach, but now they have to go up against a VCU team that has a better rebound rate. Duquesne is checking in right around about 180th in the country in terms of their rebound rate. Meanwhile, you've got a VCU team that's in the top 70 with that respect. You've been able to have Toby Lowell to give you about 6 rebounds per contest. I love what you've been able to get as well out of Max Shulga. All sorts of versatility, 5 boards, 3.5 assists, 14.5 points, shoots 41.5% from 3, and VCU has just been getting better and better as the season goes along, as you had Joe Bashmili along with Sean Bairstow missed the first 7+ games of the season for Bairstow. He missed 13 games due to injury. Bashmili, the 2-time transfer rule, was bogging him down, and this is a VCU team that, if you do have a little bit of trepidation, they do turn the ball over right around about 12.5 times per contest. Duquesne is a top 75 team in terms of generating turnovers, but they themselves do turn the ball over about 12 times per contest. It's very clear that Duquesne is making these games slogs. They have given up 65 points or fewer in 5 out of their last 6 games, but do have a VCU unit that they themselves have been very good in terms of their defense. Meanwhile, the offense, it's been functional, as for VCU, they've given up fewer than 70 points in 4 of their last 5 games, but this is a squad that they have just enough, in my opinion, to be able to get this total over. I did set my total at a 128. I think that's going to be a nip and tuck game, and it's going to be a slow game. Both of these teams well outside the top 225 in terms of total possessions per game. As a matter of fact, outside the top 240 in terms of total possessions per game. But that said, I do think that VCU going to be able to do a rock solid job here against a Duquesne team that actually scores more points per possession when they're away from home rather than when they are at home, to be able to help out with that total. So did set my total 128 looking over, and with VCU, I'm going to be willing to lay up to 3.5 with them. 645, 646 is going to be the DK Network right pick. Florida and Auburn do battle out there in Nashville, Tennessee, and with Auburn, they are a 5.5 to a 6-point favorite. In your total on this game, it is 155.5 to 156. My write-up here is going to be on Florida. I set them as a 3-point underdog. Auburn is a very complete team. They're in the top 40 nationally in terms of both points scored and points allowed on a per possession basis. And the narrative is that Auburn is a worse team when they're away from them rather than when they are at home, and that certainly is the case. But the drop-off isn't actually too bad. This is more of just a play on Florida. As Florida, they are number 3 in all of college basketball in terms of percentage of missed shots that they're able to grab as an offensive rebound, and that's been the catalyst for their offense. For Florida, they entered into yesterday 21st in the country in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. Even though this team is not going to go into flamethrower mode from 3-point range or anything like that, entered into yesterday shooting 34% from distance. You've got 2 good top flight guards, Zion Pullen, Walter Clayton. These 2 guys, they combine to give you about 33 points per contest. They combine to shoot 40% from 3, but just all that size down low. Micah Hanglon, Tyrese Samuel, Alex Condon, being able to combine for about 21 rebounds per game. You've been able to get quite a bit more recently as well out of Thomas Howell. He really didn't play too much yesterday, but if you take a look at him as a whole, he's been able to do a nice job giving you something down low. Riley Kugel is able to give you a bit of something from the outside as well. And then for this Auburn team, they're a very complete team with G&I Broom cleaning up 16 points, 8.5 boards, 2.5 blocks per contest for a bunch that, in general, is one of the top teams in all of college basketball with regards to percentage of opponent shots that do result in a block. But you're able to say the same thing about Florida as well. They block about 5.2 shots per contest. So both of these teams great with that respect. Now, for Florida, if you do have trepidation, certainly this has been a defense that has been off the rails and wonky recently. The last time they gave up fewer than 79 points in a contest, you have to go all the way back to the month of February. But you also have an Auburn team that they themselves have been playing some rather up-tempo and upbeat games. They were able to have things bogged down a little bit against Mississippi State and South Carolina, but those are 2 of really the slowest teams in the conference. When they haven't been facing up against those 2 teams, they've been giving up consistently 75-plus points. For Auburn, they do a nice job being able to take care of the ball. They only turn the ball over about 10.5 times per contest, but that said, I do think that with Florida, being able to do all that they're able to do on the glass, having so many different guys, they're able to pound the glass the way that they do, I do think that they're going to hold in there against an Auburn team that can be a little bit hit or miss from 3-point range. Auburn, in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, they are 13th in all of college basketball, but the way that they do give up offensive rebounds, as this is a bunch in Florida that they do such an amazing job of being able to get those second and third chances. Auburn, they really do let you have those second chances in terms of their defensive rebound rate. They're letting opponents grab a missed shot on 28.6% of their misses. I do think that the glass going to be the friend of Florida, be able to keep them lively in this one. My DK Network right to pick, that is going to be taking the points with Florida. And in terms of the total, I did set it out at 153. I recognize that Florida and Auburn have been playing some very harebrained games, but this being game number 3 in 3 days for both of these teams, I do think that they're going to be wearing down just a little bit in this one. I do think that the tempo gets slowed up just a touch. So looking at the under and my DK Network right to pick, that's going to be taking the points with Florida. 647, 648 on the betting board. Temple and UAB do battle in a game that was very tumultuous a few weeks ago. We give our to Lane Kiffin go Owls as Temple is anywhere between a 6.5 to a 7.5 point underdog. Total on this game is 138 to 139, and I'm going to take the points with Temple. I set them as a 6-point underdog. This Temple team all of a sudden has gotten very hot, and for Temple, what is very strange about this team, they play a whole heck of a lot better on the road rather than at home. For Temple, they entered into yesterday giving up a full 5 points fewer per 100 possessions in a road/neutral court setting rather than at home, and they've been able to really ride this momentum and be able to get to the spot. For Temple overall for the season, they are well outside the top 225 in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, but they do only turn the ball over about 9.9 times per contest. They keep a clean sheet. They just haven't been able to shoot all season long. As a matter of fact, each of their top 4 scorers entering into yesterday shooting below 31% from 3-point. Their main 3-point shooter has actually been Shane Dizzoni, who's been able to step up in a big way recently. He's been able to give the team 8+ points in all but one of these games in the conference tournament. You've been able to get Heisier Miller going with about 4 assists, 15.5 points per contest. It's a Temple team that has quite a few guys that hit the glass as well. Out of their top 5 scorers, all but one of them do give you at least 4 rebounds per game. Now, they go up against a UAB team that is one of the best teams in terms of being able to turn a miss into an offensive rebound in all of college basketball. That's led by Yaxel Lenborg. Give you 13.5 points, chips in there about 10.5 rebounds per game. As a matter of fact, for UAB, in terms of percentage of misses that they rebound, they are 23rd in all of college basketball, 33.5% of their missed shots. They do land in their hands and for an offensive rebound, but even with that, this has been a UAB team that has been highly suspect on offense. They are well outside the top 100 with regards to points scored on a per possession basis, while they're right around 250th in the country in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. Outside of Lenborg, you've got 4 separate guys that give you at least 9 points per contest, and nobody that gives you north of 12 as Eric Games, Ephraim Reed, along with Alejandro, don't call his name, Vasquez, Javion Davis. They're all sort of in that fold, and outside of Lenborg and Ephraim Johnson, you don't have a lot of outside shooting for the team. Alejandro Vasquez, relatively okay as well, but UAB as a whole, they're shooting about 32.5% from 3-point range, well outside the top 225 with that respect. And with Temple, in a roadside shoot court environment, allowing teams to only shoot about 30.5% from 3-point range, I do think that Temple finds a way to hold in this one. It has been a UAB team that has been turning the ball over 12 times per contest while not being able to hold on to the ball themselves. Temple not amazing at generating turnovers, but you know what? They've been able to do a relatively solid job, and for this Temple team, they've now given up 73 points or fewer in all but one of their games ever since that, shall we say, mysterious game that they played against UAB. And for UAB, they themselves have really been able to get it going on offense, scoring at least 72 points in now each of their last 5 games. So it's an interesting circumstance. I did set my total at a 144. Temple's starting to get it going on offense. UAB certainly has been cranking up their tempo, and I think that this is close enough for late game felling. So I like the over, and I do like the points with Temple. And we wrap things up with 649, 650 on the board. It is Illinois taking on Wisconsin out there in Minnesota. With Illinois, they're 2.5 to a 3-point favorite, and your total is between 149.5 and 150. I set this line at 3.5. I'm going to be willing to lay with Illinois. I just think that Wisconsin is going to be doomed on the glass, even though Wisconsin is a top 50 team in terms of rebound rates, even crawl along Tyler Wall. They've been able to combine for about 13.5 rebounds per game. Illinois is a top 15 team on the glass, and for Illinois, just have so many guys that are able to hit the boards hard. You've got each of your top 5 scorers supplying north of 4 rebounds per game. Coleman Hawkins, Quincy Guerrier, these are guys with sides that combine for 23 points, 12.5 boards, both shoot north of 38.5% from 3-point range for an Illinois team that, in a road/neutral court setting, entering into the tournament, number 1 in all of college basketball in terms of points scored per possession. And then for Wisconsin, it's been hit or miss in terms of the offense, as we all know what to expect out of this defense. They're outside the top 160 in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. In terms of opponent's 3-point shooting percentage, they are outside the top 300 with that regard, and they go up against an Illinois team that from three-point range, they've been solid, shooting about 35%, but that goes up to about 36% in a road/neutral court setting. Meanwhile, it's a Wisconsin team that overall, they shoot a relatively similar percentage to Illinois, and I will say they do shoot about 36.2% from distance in a road/neutral court setting, but with Wisconsin, the overall offense, it does take a nosedive by about 10.5 points per 100 possessions when they are away from home. You've been able to have A.J. Storr, Chucky Hepburn do a nice job of being able to help flow the offense. Storr is your main scorer with about 16.5 points per contest. Hepburn, 4 assists, 8.5 points for a Wisconsin team that, as we know, they're not going to turn the ball over a ton, but they're also not a team that's going to generate a lot of turnovers. Illinois, they allow you a lot of clean possessions. They are one of the lesser teams in all of college basketball being able to generate a turnover as well. And for Illinois, certainly the defense has been ghastly recently, giving up at least 74 points in all but one out of their last 5 games, and this team has been a machine to the over. Meanwhile, you got a Wisconsin unit that all of a sudden they've been able to play a little bit of better defense recently. They have now given up fewer than 70 points in regulation as their game against Purdue went to overtime in 4 of their last 5 games, and I just flat out don't think that you get enough possessions for an over. The last time these two teams played, it was in very early March. Illinois won that game 91-83. In order to be able to get that, you had these teams go a combined 15 out of 32 from three-point range. They both shot 50+% from the floor with 8 turnovers or fewer from both of them. I just don't think that you get that efficiency with both of these teams. Having played a lot of basketball here in the last few days, so I did set my total at 148.5. I like the under, and I do like Illinois laying up to 3 here with them, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Ryan McIntyre, who does such good work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at GNN_D1. Keep in mind, letters AM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And from there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review coming at you guys every single day throughout the college basketball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.